Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Broadband Universe podcast. I'm Craig Corbin, and it is a pleasure to welcome my guest today, Mr. Sean Buckley, Editor-in-Chief, Broadband Communities Magazine. And Sean, welcome to the Broadband Universe.
Oh, thanks, Craig. Great to be here.
Absolutely. There is so much to talk about. We are on the cusp of one of the biggest, most important events in the calendar, and that is the BBC Summit 2023, a lot to talk about there. Brand new venue, phenomenal array of panelists and speakers.
Yeah.
But I know it's been a busy time, an exciting time.
Yeah.
For those that might not know about BBC, give us that overview.
Sure. Well, the magazine kind of started out, my general understanding is it started out like 40 years ago, I think, as a magazine that covered the cable industry, under Steve Pop Vogelsang, who just passed away about a year or so ago. And then 2004 or 05 was taken over by Scott DeGarmo, who also, passed away. He's no longer with us, but, he had a great vision to bring it forward with Steve, my fellow editor, Steve Ross. And, kind of evolved from there. I mean, a lot of focus on MDUs initially, multi-dwelling units, but it's evolved. I mean, as the broadband industry has evolved. I mean, we a lot of coverage on the rural markets, MDUs still, the large carriers, and, even increasingly other new technologies like wireless and G.hn and all the new fiber to the home things in construction. It's kind of an exciting time. I came on board in 2018.
Okay.
That fall, before that I was at Fierce Markets, running the Fierce Telecom newsletter and briefly the Fierce Installer newsletter, where we looked at installer trends. I think Broadband Communities is kind of like the best of both of that, because I like the installer stuff because it's kind of cool. And then before that, spent a lot of time at a magazine called Telecommunications Magazine, and got into the industry in 1998 at a small consulting firm in Allston, Brighton, Boston, called Information Gatekeepers, and that was my beginning into telecom. But so here I am.
And things have evolved so rapidly.
Right,
you talk about it being an exciting time. Goodness, that's an understatement. I mean, we're sort of in the golden age, if you will, and I think that puts an even greater importance on organizations like BBC and events like BBC Summit.
Yeah.
And so, hats off to what went into preparing for this event. We talk about a new venue, and we'll get to that in a moment.
Sure.
But let's talk about the staff that you have incorporated to put together this year's event.
Well, it's a multifaceted sort of staff. I mean, a lot of it's Barbara and Nancy. Nancy does a lot of the behind the scenes work. Getting making sure that people are registered, and that we get the site updated. So you got that. Of course, you got Barbara with her vision. We've been teaching her a lot about the telecom industry, so she's been learning as she goes, and she brings a lot of enthusiasm that I'm seeing. So we got her, and then we got some other people that are kind of supporting us on the MDU side. We have Valerie Sargent, who worked for one of the MDU organizations in broadband for a long time before they merged with another organization. But now she's working very closely with the NMHC, and she contributes an article. But she created the whole MDU program for us during the summit. I'm going to be doing a joint panel with her on great communities, where we profile some interesting broadband builds in some interesting communities, a college town and an interesting development in Las Vegas with Cox Communications, and other people that support us too. I mean, of course, I got a great copy editor named Ellie Pevernethy Heller, who helps me out a lot, and we have a great support on the production side. This woman's name is Carrie Thomas, who helps make everything look pretty, and gets all the stuff in our agenda to look nice on the website and in the magazine. So it's a bunch of different people that really help put this together, and then some other really great supporting casts like Bob Knight at Harrison Edwards, of course,
Absolutely.
and Kim McKinley, and I mean the list goes on. There's lots of really great people. I'm trying to think, Jim Baller. I mean the list goes on and on. But lots of great people that are supporting us. And
tireless effort all year long. It's not just a very short window that's required to put this all together. And let's talk about all the different tracks that you have, and sort of go through those, if you would, for us.
Okay, so we've got an MDU track, which I mentioned. I'd have to get out the. Let me see if I can get the website up for a second, so I can have some more stuff in front of me. 1 second.
Because
So,
there's just so much to choose from for
yeah, so much to
attendees.
choose from. All right, I'm going to the agenda at a glance here. So we've got. Hang on, just 1 second. All right. Okay. So we've got the multifamily track. We've got the guide to the communities overcoming beat obstacles. That's going to be big. Funding
Right.
updates, success stories. People want to hear about success stories. I think one of the great things that I come across when people talk to me and I find out about new things is, oh, we were at your event and we decided to go build a fiber network.
Right.
And there's another one called Confronting and Solving the Problems We're All Worrying About, which is everything from network construction to lots of different things that in network construction. How do you get a good workforce to
Sure.
keep the morale going, down to things like that. You were talking about partnerships. I mean, we have partnership models. That's going to be big because there's a lot of smaller carriers, and I see a lot of electric co-ops partnering with different people. Then we have an editor's choice, which is some different panels I'm doing. I'm doing one on pond networking, which is going to be great. I've got a really great cross section of panelists. Everybody from a small family-owned telco to Sienna, which is now getting into to broadband, and they're more of an optical company, and then quantum fiber and a small electric utility. And then we have workshops. On Monday we have the CLIC, the Coalition for Local Internet Exchange Choice. They're going to do a really great. It's a really great thing. Sort of panel here. You get a lot of local leaders, folks like Peggy Schaefer, who's really driving things in Maine.
Tremendous.
Yeah, so some really great people, and I think there's even a keynote by another community leader, but and lots of other folks. And then we have a legal. There's the legal broadband. If you want to look at that, that's again Jim Ballard's bailiwick. He does a great job at putting that together.
Sure.
And then some private meetings, I guess, if people want to get together and talk about I want to help. Someone wants to build a broadband network, and I need to go talk to some vendors or some partners. And then what else? And then we of course got the exhibits.
Sure.
We've also got. I'm also just going to make a couple quick other announcements here too. We have some great keynote speakers. Gigi Son is going to.
Absolutely.
We're going to have a sort of a fireside chat with her. That's really exciting.
Nice.
Joshua Edwards, he's another broadband champion. He worked for a company called Digital C. Now he's in Maryland. He's at Digital C. Sorry, he was and then we have other people. Let's see, Andy Burke from the USDA.
That's huge.
Yeah, we've got another one of my good friends that I always enjoy hearing her perspectives. Angie Cronenberg from Encompass. It's just there's so many different things. I mean, you could take all, it's like going to a buffet. I mean, so many different things to fill up on.
Well, and that's the challenge, when
Yeah.
you talk about looking at an agenda with that many tracks, that many phenomenal panels, that many keynotes to take in. Of course, part of the beauty of the event over the years that I have appreciated so much, Sean, is the phenomenal atmosphere that's created for, to your point a moment ago, interacting with members of the community. That it's so vitally important, especially in this day and time.
Right. I mean, one of my favorite stories is like Positron came a couple of years ago, and one of their customers, which is like a special needs, it's like an agency in Maryland that helps build broadband. So
Sure.
apparently there was a special needs company that they built special housing for people that are autistic and have other special
Right.
needs. And they found out about Positron at our event, and then they ended up marrying up together. And then we ended up doing a whole profile on them in Maryland, and it was just really fun. I love finding out about these things. Oh, we found out about Positron, and what we could do with broadband. That we could use this infrastructure inside this old building, and So I love those kinds of stories when people come up to me and say that that's how we married together, something. So
Absolutely, that's the kind of success story that really is the heart of why the event exists. Looking at your demographics from last year's event, when people want to know who is going to be in attendance,
Sure.
35% broadband system operators, 23% were system installers or service providers. You have 15% of the attendees that were consultants and contractors. And then your manufacturers, your suppliers, and distributors, and a goodly percentage, 10% or more, from the legal and the government
Yeah.
sector as well.
Yeah, no, it's a good cross section. And we have other people like I mentioned Jim, and then you got people like drawing a blank for some strange reason, but there's some other people like anyways, there's a number of legal folks that are
Absolutely.
so it's a good
Absolutely.
cross section.
No doubt about it. You're watching the Broadband Universe podcast, brought to you in part by Lit Communities. Light up your community. You deserve better internet. By Vetro Fiber Map, radically simpler fiber management. And by Vitruvi, built faster, reduce costs, and improve quality. My guest today, Sean Buckley, Editor-in-Chief, Broadband Communities. And we are talking BBC Summit 2023. And, when we look at talked off the top, the new venue, the Woodlands Waterway Marriott Hotel and Convention Center, a phenomenal facility.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's all kind of ties in with the whole Texas feel, and it's there's lots of restaurants near there, and it's a very inclusive sort of place. I mean, and it encourages people to kind of interact. I think that's the key thing. That it's kind of a general thing. That Scott Woods is the other guy I was thinking of too.
Absolutely,
Key legal mind. When you mention that, but no, that's one of the things that I like about our event is it gets people talking and people are engaged with one another. And like I gave you that other story, and I think there's even been others that I've heard that people have come to our event and decided to build a network because they could get the material, not the materials, but they could get in front of people that they need to talk to. And I think that's the key thing.
Absolutely, and when we talk, you made mention of Scott, my colleague, a phenomenal member of the Ready and Broadband Money team, and a tip of the hat to Broadband.money as the conference sponsor. So many great sponsors, but tip of the hat to Broadband.money for their role as your primary sponsor for the event.
Yeah, no, they're doing a lot of great work because I think that's what communities need is like, how do I navigate the whole bead process? And,
Sure.
I mean, you are seeing more people like I mentioned Peggy Schaefer. I mean, she's kind of been a trailblazer in places like Maine, but not everybody is in the same place. And I think people need that kind of guidance. How do I do this? And, how can I make the permitting easier for a guy coming in or so on and so on.
Yeah, and I know that you have tapped Scott to moderate a couple of panels.
Yep.
And then that track that you mentioned earlier, Confronting and Solving the Problems We're All Worrying About, that is a great title to that track. The first one that he will have is Mapping and Fabric Data, Confronting the Mess, and that's very appropriately titled. And what a great panel there. He's got some phenomenal panelists. He's got another panel on talking about alternatives. Can states find a better approach? And the timing for those topics in particular, Sean, I think could not be better when we talk about the BEAD funding allocation just months away and all the questions with regard to the veracity of the mapping data that exists.
Yeah, well, it has always been a mess, and I think that's what, even when we went to the Encompass event back in March, I mean, I think people are still grappling with it. It had a lot of congressional leaders, and they're all like, well, we need to fix this so we know where the broadband is and where it isn't. And it's not just a residential thing. I think it's also a business services thing. Small businesses need broadband.
Sure.
I mean, I think of a piece that Connects On wrote for us. I mean, they highlighted that. I mean, it's want to attract businesses into a community or, small businesses that might, whatever it may be, but they need broadband and they need good options, not old T1 lines. That
Exactly.
So anyway, but that's a whole.
So many topics to look at, and just scanning the agenda, looking at open access, a huge topic. Roger Timmerman, the executive director and CEO of Utopia Fiber, will be moderating that panel. He's got some phenomenal panelists for that. You will be doing a multitude of moderating as well on Thursday. I think you and I are moderating panels at the same time, just down the hall.
So we don't get to talk to each other. Sorry.
Yours, leveraging fixed wireless and FTTP, plus more solutions to getting your broadband.
Yeah, it's a mouthful there, but but everything from every building is different. I mean, especially if you look at an MDU, because you have brownfield and. Well, can you get access to wiring closets? Can you get access to conduit, so on and so forth. And then there's also, some folks want to do managed Wi-Fi, and there's other ways to leverage the existing wiring, things like G.hn, and you can deliver really great broadband speeds. Positron will talk about that. And then, of course, there's fiber. But, of course, if you're talking about greenfield, well, you're going to probably plow the fiber in. But
Sure.
The more challenging part is the existing buildings that are out there, and how do you solve for that? I think that's going to should be a good discussion. It's a good cross-section of folks there, too. We've got Ubiquity. They're kind of a competitive provider. A lot of former Verizon folks at that company.
Right.
Positron, who I've known Pierre, their CTO, since the days of one of his former Wi-Fi companies that he founded 20 years ago. It's crazy to think about it. I named them as a hot startup when I was at another company, and some other good people that are on that panel. So that should be a good one.
Absolutely, and I'm excited about the partnership primer panel that I get to moderate. Very honored to be able to chat with Seema Patel, Senior Counsel at Chapman and Cutler, Craig Ferguson, Senior VP of the RCRC, Rural County Representatives of California. Phenomenal work they are doing there. And, of course, Sachin Gupta, the Director of Government Business and Economic Development with Centranet.
Centranet is another one of those interesting ones. I've kind of gotten to know him. I think they're in Arkansas. Is that an Arkansas one? I don't remember. But, they're pretty, there's a lot of, they're doing some interesting things. They're trying to build a middle mile network, and he's got a lot going on. But the partnerships I think are really, really important for communities. And we see co-ops, the electric co-op guys partnering with, established providers that may have simple things like a customer-facing, mechanism, like how do you bill, and these are things that the co-ops aren't familiar with. But then you see communities.
The co-ops so important in filling that void on so many parts around the nation that are in need of connectivity, and I view them as a phenomenal part of truly bridging the digital divide going forward.
Yeah, sure. And then you also see a lot of local telcos, working with communities. Cincinnati Bell now called Alta Fiber.
Right.
They're working with a bunch of communities in Kentucky and Ohio, finding ways to bridge, funding together to get broadband to places that maybe would never get anything. So there's some really there's a lot of people that are being really creative. I would say that when I think of partnerships, I think people are being creative, and that's the excitement. So that's going to be a good one too. So
much to choose from, and we do encourage, for anybody that has never attended the BBC Summit, you really are missing out because of the phenomenal content. Love the theme this year, fiber, paving the road to our connected future. That's spot on. Could not be more timely. Sean, as we begin to wind down the conversation, I know that you and the BBC staff have done so much in preparation for this event. The excitement is growing because we're just days away from the start. But your final thoughts about this year's event?
Yeah, I just think it's all about, to come back to your point about partnerships and just education. I think it's also another key theme is just going to be like training the workforce.
Sure.
Getting more workforce in there. I think that's another exciting part. And there's a lot of people that are motivated to do that, whether it's the Communications Workers of America, or it's local community college. We need to train the next generation of installers, but I think at the same time that creates opportunities for jobs and for people to have a good career. And so I think broadband is an enabler. I always kind of talk about it as being like a rippling thing.
Absolutely.
Plant a fiber in a community, and it enables you to do all these things. The idea of it I stole from a guy at Lumos Networks who's now at another company called Segra several years ago. Well, no, he's now at Unity, talking about like a water stain, and when you put fiber into a community,
the ripple,
it just ripples.
Sure.
And, so I always think of Joe McCourt at Unity when I think of rippling and broadband and fiber, and anyway, that's what I always come back to. Is it's always that rippling effect.
Well, we appreciate what you and the BBC team do to put this event on. Very much look forward to seeing you in person at the Woodlands next week, and can't wait to do a rehash after the event. And
Sure.
so it is so important. We appreciate so much your time today and sharing about
Thank you
the
for the
event.
opportunity.
Absolutely, absolutely.
See
On
you
behalf,
next week, Craig.
indeed, on behalf of Sean, I'm Craig. Thanks for letting us be a part of your day. See you next time right here on the Broadband Universe. So long, everyone.
Very much. Thanks again.